Hey everyone, this is Onisha Biggs with another pharmacy tech lesson, and today we're going to talk about dose per time calculations, okay? I wouldn't really say it's far-fetched from what we've learned already. You're going to find that the concepts and the pieces that come together to give us the dose per time calculations are actually things that we've learned in the previous math videos. So if you need some refreshing on those, then go back to those videos and check it out. And also, before we get started, I'm going to take care of some house business. Don't forget that the PTCB live trainings are going to be starting this month in January, okay? So you want to get on that email list, which I'll have the link below, to make sure that you're in there and you're getting the lessons, because once the lesson goes through, they will not be available on the later end, okay? So make sure that you get in and you get the updates and you get updated when those lessons will be occurring so that you don't miss any, okay? So let's go ahead and get started with the lesson. So with the dose per time, we have some different components that come together to equal this whole thing, okay? So the first component is, first let me give you the whole concept. So with dose per time basically is this: concentration times the flow rate equals the dose per time, okay? So let's think about it first. The first thing that we need to know is our concentration, okay? So we need to know what is our concentration that we're given. And the second thing that we need to know is our flow rate. What is the flow rate that we're given? And when we multiply those two together, that's going to give us the dose per time. Okay, so in the previous video, we talked about flow rate in the video right before this one. I'm going to go back through it again just to kind of briefly refresh, but I'm not going to go in depth on those topics, okay, because we're talking about dose per time, okay? So the concentration, though, we haven't talked about this in a while. So the concentration equals the amount of drug that's in the IV divided by the total volume of the IV. Okay, and these are the way that these can be expressed. So you can be saying drops per minute, you can say milliliters per minute, or you can say milliliters per hour or liters per hour. It really depends on what they're asking for, okay? So that's the general concept of dose per time. To calculate that, it's basically just this: the concentration times the flow rate, okay? Okay, so now that we know the different components that it takes to calculate the dose per time, let's go ahead and do a brief run through of getting a concentration and getting the flow rate, okay? So then all we have to do is multiply the two, and that'll give us our what we're actually looking for, which is the dose per time. Okay, so let me check my notes here. We have, okay, so looking for the concentration, okay? So let's say this problem says you got ampicillin 500 milligrams in NS of 250 milliliters. And if you don't know what NS is, it's the normal saline. It comes in different concentrations as well. But just generally speaking, we're talking about this NS solution. So for the sake of time and not going into depth on that, we have ampicillin 500 milligrams in NS of 250 milliliters. Okay, so basically to get the concentration, it's as simple as this. So we have the 500 milligrams over the 250 milliliters. Okay, so basically already this is our concentration. That's the gist of it. That's the concentration. But just for mathematical purposes, so it's easier for us when we're multiplying here, we can go ahead, we can kind of break this down even further, and that will come out to be 2 milligrams over 1 milliliter. Okay, so this will be our concentration that we'll be using here. And how I got that is this: you find the common term for these two. So you can say 5 goes into 500 and break it down that way. But basically I already knew that 250 can go into 500. So 250 goes into 250 one time and 250 goes into 500 two times. Okay, so that's how you calculate the concentration. Okay, so now we're going to look at calculating the second component that we need to get the dose per time, which is the flow rate. Okay, and we talked about this more in depth in the previous video, but just for time's sake, I'm going to briefly run through it here. So here's an example here. It says you have let's say you have a 1,000 milliliter bag of NS, normal saline, and it runs over 8 hours. What is the rate? Okay, so when it asks for the rate, that's the same thing as flow rate. Okay, same thing, just terminology, adding the flow. So let's see, we have 1,000. Well, let me write it. Let me write it here so I don't confuse you. So let's say we have the 1,000. It says we have 1,000 milliliters, and it's running over 8 hours. Okay, so basically what we're going to do to get the flow rate, we're going to divide this into the milliliters. So we're going to divide the time into the amount that we have, and it's just asking for the general rate. It didn't say in minutes or seconds, so we'll just do it that way. So we'll say 8 goes into 1,000, and that'll give us 125 milliliters per hour. Okay, so that's our flow rate that we got here. And so basically what we would do to get the dose per time, we will multiply what we got here for the concentration and times the flow rate here, which is that number. And if you want more details or more in-depthness on understanding concentrations, why certain things, maybe how to cross multiply, then check out the previous videos in the playlist and you'll get more in-depthness on that, okay? Okay, so now let's go ahead and calculate the dose per time. We're going to work an example, and also if you want to go ahead of me and try to work the example yourself first before I work it, then check down in the description. I'm going to have the practice problem there. You can go ahead and try to work it, and then you can go through and see if you got the answer correct. And if you didn't get it correct, that's okay. You can go through the steps and see where you might have made a mistake so that you know how to do future problems, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Let me read this problem for you. It says, you prepare a 500 milliliter bag of D5W containing 1,000 units of heparin. The solution is to be infused over 2 hours. The hourly dose of heparin administered to the patient would be calculated how? Okay, so it wants us to basically determine the dose per time. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to use C for concentration, okay? Just so we have everything properly labeled. In this case, the concentration would be the 1,000 units of the heparin over the 500 milliliters of the D5W, okay? And as we stated before, we could go ahead and simplify that even more and make it to, that would be 2 units over 1 ml. Okay, so this is our concentration. This is our C. Okay, so here we're trying to get the flow rate, and I'm just going to label that as F. Okay, so for our flow rate, we got 500 milliliters. That's the IV over, or the D5W, and that's 500 milliliters over the time, which is 2 hours. Okay, so in this case, that would give us 250 ml over 1 hour, and that's our flow rate. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is, I'm going to use this color. What we're going to do is multiply these two to get us our dose per time. Okay, and so when we do that, it comes out to be this. So 2 times 250, that's 500. Over 1 times 1 is 1. And how do we determine what units we use? So if we could clearly see here, two things cancel out. So the ml there and the ml there cancels out. So that leaves us with what? Units per hour. So that's letting us know we got 500 units per 1 hour. That's our dosage of the heparin per time. Okay? So that's the answer. That's the answer. That's the dose per time. And while we're at it, just to recap a little bit, let me just run through it one more time with you very quickly. So we know that to get dose per time, we need concentration times the flow rate, and that will give us the dose per time. In this case, the concentration was 1,000 units divided by 500 ml. So when we dumbed that down and simplified it, that gave us 2 units over 1 ml. So that's our concentration. And so then we need the flow rate, because the formula calls for flow rate. So we have flow rate equals 500 ml divided by 2 hours, because when you're dealing with flow and a rate, you're usually talking about something over time. So it's 500 mLs over 2 hours. The flow rate would be the flow rate would be equal to 250 over 1 hour after you dumb that down. So then what you want to do is multiply the 2, multiply concentration times flow rate, which will give you 500 units over 1 hour. And of course, you need to have your correct units, because on the PTCB exam, you may have this answer 2 times, but they may have like ml up here instead of units, and that would be incorrect. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're lining everything up neatly so you can keep up with your units. So you have the ml crosses out here, crosses out there. That leaves you with units per hour. So that lets you know that it's units per hour here. And that's how you calculate dose per time. Okay, so that's the end of this lesson. If you have any more questions about this lesson or any other previous lessons, or maybe a particular step that you didn't quite grasp or understand, just let me know in the comments below and we'll get it taken care of for you. I really do enjoy teaching these lessons, and I'm glad that it's helping you guys out, especially with the math portion of the exam. I find that with a lot of my clients and the students that come to me, they're having issues with the math portion the most. So that's why we're really honing in on this math, and we're getting it taken care of so that you guys can get passed on that PTCB test or your National Pharmacy Technician exam, and you can move on to higher heights in pharmacy. Also, make sure that you get on the list, which the link will be below. You can either head over to pharmacytechadvantage.com, or you can just click the link and it'll take you directly to the list to get on the live PTCB sessions, which are by list only. So if you're on the list, then you can get into the session. If you're not, then you probably missed the session. So it's just as simple as going in and putting in your email and getting on that list so that you can get the updates of where and when the sessions will be held. They're going to be live online though, okay? So you don't want to miss this opportunity. The first run through of the sessions are free, so I really would admonish you, especially if you're studying for the test or you plan on studying for the test on the latter end, to get on the list, okay? Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe and leave some love down in the comments. You guys have a great day. This has been Onisha Biggs with another Pharmacy Tech lesson. Take care. Bye-bye.